Welcome everybody to the next edition of the SimAirport update video. Our second go at it. Hopefully we're a little better. You got Arthur and Rob here.
Hello.
We're gonna kind of walk you through some of the changes and just kind of show you what some of our favorite things are. Not gonna have enough time to show everything. Just like last time, kind of felt like we didn't get a ton into this patch, and then we do the notes and there's a ton. But we're gonna kind of touch on our favorite stuff, talk about some of the challenges, and talk about what's coming up next.
I like the festive theme to this. What's that all about?
Yeah, we got some holiday cheer going on in here. Kind of something fun. I believe we've got Christmas trees. We got some hats going on. You'll see the Christmas trees actually have an environment effect. And as we get further away from Christmas, that'll actually become a lower and lower effect until eventually it goes negative if you don't take that Christmas tree out. Like my family, but we tend to end up forgetting and having a brown Christmas tree. So it's a cheap way to get your environment up right now, but you're not gonna want to keep it around too long. Do want to wish you guys all a happy holiday coming up. We're right on it at this point. Really appreciate everyone's support. Hope you all have a great holiday.
All right, so let's dig in. Where do you want to start?
Let's talk about the new UI. So, if you've been playing for a while, this interface probably looks pretty different than what you're used to seeing. We spent a good bit of time there's a shockingly high amount of UIs in the game. It feels like there's only like 2 or 3 UIs, and then we start changing them, and there's a whole bunch. You're gonna see that we've reorganized the build menus entirely. Really everything has been touched, even staff. You're no longer placing the staff with your god hand. You're actually gonna be hiring them. Everything has been reorganized. It's a lot more hierarchical. Maybe one of the biggest changes is the flight management screen, where we've combined the scheduling and the airline listing, and you can resize between them. Just it's just a much better look. It's a lot sleeker. There's a lot of bug fixes in here, just improvements, quality of life stuff. Things like resizing, it just works better. It feels like it would in Windows.
I noticed a new little panel to the right. I believe it's the overlays that we added.
This is new. It's something you guys have been asking for a while, is to be able to build with the overlays on. And you can now keep the overlays on anytime you want and, jump into the build mode and see a live view of what effects you're gonna have from your upcoming placement. So we'll grab a flight info display. So now you've got a much better idea of where this is going to go, how it's going to affect your people. This works for environment and for info, and then same thing for PA systems as well. We spent a lot of time on this. It took a little bit longer than maybe expected, but hopefully you guys like it. Still probably some edges here and there that are not quite polished. Just let us know. We'll definitely continue improving it. We're pretty pleased though with the change. It just feels a lot more modern. It doesn't feel nearly as clunky.
It takes a little bit to get used to, but otherwise I think it's a solid improvement over what it was before. Kind of the developer art, very basic.
Yeah, it definitely had a programmer art kind of feel.
One of the new things we added this round were first class lounges and flight crew lounges. You can see right up here in the top and then right here in the center. This is kind of just a proof of concept. It's a start in the direction that we want to go for it.
People have been asking this for I think since like release day in March. People have been asking for lounges.
Right. I mean, on the surface, it was pretty simple. Just create a new zone and good to go pretty much. But to actually wire it up and make it do something, we came across a few surprises along the way. One of those was notably the pathfinding. With first class lounges, we don't want other agents walking in there and using those objects if they're not first class. Similarly, for flight crews, we wanted the ability to create like private bathrooms just for the people that can access them. Like here, you can see flight crews can only use these 2 restrooms. The other ones are available to everyone else.
And it just figures that out by itself.
Yep. So, I mean, you could actually use these as like almost security walls if you wanted to kind of hack the game and see what happens. But the interesting thing with the lounges, there's really not much to them right now, but they do create better effects for the passengers and the agents that use the objects in here, like seating. It's going to make them much more satisfied, and the food is going to be that much more filling, things like that.
And I mean, in the future, we've talked about where we kind of want to go with it. There's definitely more we want to do with it, having like some kind of quality type rating. We want to do that really for these two lounges. We've talked about and even worked on General Aviation Lounge at one point, but we want to do some kind of quality rating. Eventually have airlines that like they require it before they'll work with you, or even they'll negotiate and want to own one of the lounges or lease one of the lounges from you directly. There's definitely more stuff we want to do here, like every other area of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it could be potentially a revenue source too if there's a preferred pass fee or something like that too.
Yeah.
Regarding the pathfinding here too, you can notice that this guy is a first class passenger. The interesting thing on this map that I kind of was trying to point out here is there's actually 2 separate security wings, and only first class passengers can pass between the corridor right here. So anyways, yep, so I hope you guys like that. It's a start. There's not much to it, but it is kind of fun, and it makes the game a little bit more interesting. So
yeah, and I mean, like everything else, we got to start somewhere with this kind of stuff, and just kind of build on top, layer on.
The one thing we noticed, it's really surprising. We implement a feature, and then a few days later we find out there's a few issues with it, and it needs a lot more time to figure out a better solution. One great example is the OneWay Taxiway tool, which is quite a dangerous tool. It can be very difficult to find out if there's an issue with your airport. Like in this example, I just created this OneWay Taxiway right here, but I mean, just looking at it, you couldn't really tell too obviously, but you're gonna see this aircraft stuck, or one of these aircraft, because it won't be able to get to this gate, because this is it's a pretty strict forced direction. And in this case, we can see this guy.
He doesn't know where to go because he can't pull into he can't get past that one way right there.
Yep, he comes in this way and he's got to turn around, or if he goes the other way, he's got to go right past this intersection. So one thing we added is you can click on aircraft that appear to be stuck, and you should see this new UI that shows where they're headed to, and basically it's called just potential blockers. So it'll highlight certain road nodes that you might want to pay attention to, like dead ends and stuff too. So in this case, it kind of makes it a little bit more obvious that we might need to fix that, or just remove it, and you can see the aircraft gets right in there. So
yeah, and this is a great example. We received a good number of maps where it turned out the issue was the aircraft couldn't get to their destination because of one-ways, but it's really a great example of the amount of effort that has to go into some of these things that, one-ways, I think I implemented one Saturday morning in like 2 or 3 hours, and in total it's taken 4 or 5 days to get to the bottom of all these little things. Everything from UI, where the arrows were tough to see, to now the paths become much more difficult to figure out, or at least much more time consuming, processor intensive to figure out, can we get from a gate to the runway we need to get to that's big enough, while taking into account all the one-ways. It's very similar to like the first class lounges and making sure that coach passengers don't try to path through them and stuff. But there's just a lot of little things that, we upgrade one system and then we got to go look at like 3 or 4 others.
yeah, like in this example, you can see right here, this will kind of create a black hole where everyone can path into it, but nobody can path out. It looks pretty simple, it looks pretty obvious right there, but the issue is if you've got a really big map with a really complex taxiway network, you could have the same kind of issue, but in 2 different points in the map that you can't really see it too obviously.
Yeah. Let's talk about agent lighting. I showed this to a couple of people. I think Rob, I showed this to you originally, and you asked me like what changed. You'll notice now these passengers aren't bright no matter where they are. These guys, they get off the bus and they're actually dark. And as they pass inside, they pick up the light from the indoors. And it's just, it sounds like a really simple thing. It's kind of like the grass. If you compare it to prior builds, or you take a look at like our old trailer, it'll jump out at you like right away. Why is it that these passengers are just glowing all the time? So it's just one of those that, we've known we want to get back to. Finally glad to put it to rest.
All right, so one new pretty big feature we added this round was maintenance or upkeep system. There's a bunch of new objects that are gonna decay over time, basically with continued usage. So like runways and aircraft gates, every time an aircraft lands or uses them, it's gonna decrease the quality or the maintenance level of it. And eventually it's gonna require repair. In certain cases, repair is gonna cost money in the form of supplies. It's one of those things we wanted to design that had enough depth to it to make it kind of interesting and tie into a few different systems instead of just being, you know, just charges money every day or whatever, something like that. So what you can do, you can actually configure the maintenance duration for a given day. It's kind of just a daily cycle where you're going to take objects offline and workers can go and repair them. If you want, you can actually do it all throughout the day. The key thing that we tried to do here is it's going to be cheaper actually to perform regular maintenance, as neglect will actually end up costing a lot more money just because it's not a linear relationship.
But when your objects are being repaired, they'll be taken offline, so you got to kind of find a balance. But the other thing we're definitely chasing here was we don't want you to have to go and click stuff all the time just to make this happen. You ought to be able to find kind of an equilibrium of what the ideal is based on how much money you want to spend and how often you want to take, you know, runways offline for a little while to get them fixed.
Right, that's a great point. I use this developer tool here that we can do. This will actually take this runway offline because now you can see it right there at 0%, and there's a warning that pops up. And right now, no aircraft can use this runway. So at this point, we really need to repair this runway right now, and you can see the workers have already started on it. You can do repairs outside of the regular maintenance window. If there's a situation that may require it, you can just click repair now right there. But you can see a bunch of workers are going to come over, and it's already being improved. So
how many workers you got going here, man?
Quite a lot, maybe 50. I probably don't need all of those throughout the day. But
this can't be a profitable airport. 4.8 in the hole.
I'm working my way back up.
We gotta work on your money management skills.
It's sandbox, it's okay. But yeah, so I mean, you can see here, toilets and aircraft gates and runways are going to work a little bit differently just because they use supply piles. Smaller objects like security and some of the facilities in the restrooms are going to require a maintenance zone and toolbox locker. There's a limited number of toolboxes, so workers are going to have to come and grab one and head to the restrooms and then bring back the toolbox. So there's a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, we want to add more onto this. You know, it's like we probably should have rolled this out to some more of the objects too. But yeah, right now I think it's the phone. I know the phone's charging station, security, and then the outdoor, the gates, and the runways. But we'll get this onto more stuff. We're gonna listen to your feedback, kind of see. We don't want to create a micromanagement atmosphere with this though. It needs to be pretty balanced. So it shouldn't really even be getting in your way early in the game. But like everything else, we'll continue listening and tweaking it and adding onto it. So did you talk about the thresholds?
You can see here, you can actually set the repair thresholds per object type category. It might make more sense to do this per object, but we just wanted a kind of a nice balance of being able to configure it for the whole airport pretty quickly without trying to micromanage every little bit of it quite yet.
I like it like that. If anything, I almost think maybe by zone might make sense because for kiosk scheduling, it seems like it can be kind of a pain, but it's just finding that balance isn't the easiest.
Right.
So another feature we kind of got in here late towards the end of the cycle, kiosk scheduling, and you're going to find this under the staff hub. And what this allows you to do is set how many workers are at each of your kiosks. And when you hover over these, you're going to see it turn blue for the one that you're hovered over. These are sorted by location, so you should see like things right near each other. But what you can do is you can say, you know, I don't have any flights late tonight, so I want to see, and we'll just say next hour. You can go ahead and close it down. And these guys are now gonna take off when that time comes. And they arrive at the airport and they leave the airport via vehicle. They'll get dropped off just like everyone else, and they'll get picked up like everyone else. I believe they take all public transit. And then your hourly cost now is just based on how many workers you have available. So these guys just took off, and now you're not going to be charged for this hour.
But you also won't make any money too.
Right.
Passengers won't go there. Yeah.
Right. And the other benefit here is, you know, you can also increase your staff substantially when you've got a very busy airport. That way you'll be able to serve that many more people at once. Each object type has slightly different like maximums. So, you know, some of the smaller kiosks can only have 3 or 4 workers, while some of the objects, you know, you can get up to 5 or 6 maybe, which is kind of leads me right into some of the new objects. We've added a handful of new retail objects this round. We've got the apparel stand, We've got the large bar. This large bar, we've had the art for it forever. We finally just got it in. It doesn't work exactly like I want it to long term, probably. Yeah, we wanted to just go ahead and get it in there. We've also added pizza joint, which is pretty nice. Who doesn't like airport pizza, man? And then we've got sushi, and I don't know who likes sushi from the airport. But we've got these new kiosks in here. They're pretty straightforward, but just to kind of go along with the kiosk scheduling, and we're gonna continue tweaking the balance on this stuff. Hopefully fairly soon here. We got our plates fairly full, but there's also a couple of new coffee tables. They're just kind of decorative. I saw on maybe Reddit that these actually do work for eating out of a cafeteria. Wasn't really intended, but based on the way they're implemented, that makes sense. And then yeah, we've got Christmas trees going. Cool new thing is windows now provide a benefit to your passengers. They'll actually increase the environment score as long as they're overlooking the outdoors. So indoor windows looking into other indoor areas aren't going to do anything for you. Just kind of show you it's not a huge boost, but it does give you a little bit of an oomph. So you can see these windows are having an impact. There's no other objects around.
One of the problems that we discovered this round too was the staff assignments, just the way these staff members go to different objects like ID check stand or the gate agent desk and ticketing desks. The issue here was if you'd have too many staff members or too few, which objects they went to wasn't really the best decision-making algorithm. The reason it was such a problem was because
well, they were doing some kind of snowball effect. I saw maps where like nobody was working. All the staff were like going from one desk to the next.
Right. Yep. So you can actually see this. I hired one extra security guard here. He's just gonna go to a random object because everything's already staffed right now. The issue was if we fired a security member way up here, the person that replaces them would have been arbitrary, pretty much whoever's next. But here you can actually see that the staff member here was doubled up on that ID check stand, so he makes the most sense to go over there. The issue previously was you'd have another staff member fill this spot, say this one, and then that would leave a hole that someone else would fill, and it would just it wasn't the most efficient way to do it. Right now it's like a matching algorithm to the highest priority object with the lowest priority agent. And additionally, it'll be the closest one too, so it's always going to be the fastest.
It's like really optimal. Like,
yep.
Whereas before it was just whoever got lucky, and he'd be greedy. If you happened to be nearby there and was lucky, he'd just run over there, and then everybody else would run to wherever he was.
And at the end of the day, nobody was actually working. They were just walking back and forth, basically.
Yeah, so this seems like kind of an improvement then.
Yep. It was, I mean, it definitely took longer than expected, but we're pretty satisfied with the solution we got going here. It's a much better way to do it, so.
I haven't heard a whole lot of feedback on it, but I kind of take that to mean it's working. It's doing what people would expect.
Yeah, it definitely kind of paves the way for being able to configure these manually if you wanted to configure the number of workers per object. Just kind of with a general staff scheduling, kind of just to expand on the kiosk vendor scheduling, so.
Yeah, and I don't think we're 100% sure what we want that to look like. Like, should you be assigning them per zone? Should you be, you want 7 security people here at this hour? Or would it be, just how many security people you have on at any given moment, any given hour, and then just let them distribute themselves? This should lay the groundwork for us to be able to do that. It's just kind of a matter of what makes most sense. Does it even make sense for you guys to schedule these kind of staff people? Yeah, be really interested to hear feedback on that. Okay, so this time around, we've got aircraft mods added to the game. It wasn't really planned, but really wanted to get it in this year. We've upgraded the mod menus, like all the other UIs, this has been improved, but there's some specific additions here. We've got this new mod test map, and you'll see this is what it'll look like when you load it up. And you just click on this to load it. One of the coolest features here, and this is for airlines and aircraft, is that you can now click on any of the airlines either that you've made or you've downloaded from the workshop, and you can click on demo spawn. And if you're on an airline, it's going to let you pick which one, and then it's going to cut to a scene like this where you can actually see what it's going to look like when it docks, so you can get an instant preview without having to, you know, accept the airline contract and go through the whole thing. You can just quickly like check it out, see what it's going to look like. This is even more important for the new custom aircraft mods, because you've got to set some new parameters that control how it gets into the gate. Something really neat with the new aircraft stuff though is that we've actually got an in-game editor. And so you can just click create new aircraft, and then you can come right in here in the game and you can edit all this info right away, set, you know, what the minimum runway size is, how many passengers it carries.
That looks a lot easier than editing the JSON.
Yeah, I think it should make everybody's lives easier, you know, even ours. That way it's not going to be a matter of, you know, the JSON syntax or anything. You can just make your edits here, save your changes, you know. We've also got this is really nice. Let's see if I can get it better. So this is just a dummy texture to help us test, but you can set all the positions. So, you know, you want to put the nav light on the left side, you just can type in here -2, and then you can move it up a little bit, 0.25, and this will vary by aircraft, but you can see this little blue symbol moving to help you figure out where it's aligned to. Then you can get all this stuff aligned, you click save, and then you can hit the spawn button and see it actually moving. You can see we've got the nav light over there on the left that we just moved. Let's try to put that strobe right on the prop, just to see what happens. Oh, look at that, strobe on the prop. Looks kind of like a UFO.
Rudolph.
Yeah, it is. That's what it is. It's Rudolph. Anyway, yeah, just, you know, I know you guys have been asking for more aircraft in the game. Now it's almost trivial to be able to try it. If you have aircraft that are able to use all 3 gates, whenever you click the demo spawn, they're going to dock at all 3 gates simultaneously. And then if you get tired of seeing it, you can just hit escape and get right out. All these UIs have been updated. They are just a little bit, it's just more consistent, doesn't feel quite as clunky.
Alright, so one of the common problems we see is requires secure area complaints. Well, it's not really a complaint, but just the functional warning that you might see pop up on your airport. You can see,
like, why does this require secure area? I have security zone.
and I mean, if you just look at this map, it looks pretty good, but it's real. I mean, everything's going bonkers right now. What's going on? There's a new button that'll show up. It's called Show Non-Secure Path. This will help you kind of identify where that warning really comes from. So you can see here, specifically highlighted right here through that fence that I just destroyed. Yep, so it's a little troubleshooting tool, but it'll help diagnosing some of these common issues a little bit much easier, really.
So you just click on it, and that is that on everything?
Yep. Well, just anything with the error that shows up, and you can see pretty much everything is all because of that same fence point right there. So
that's the first time I've seen it. That's really nice, man. That's gonna help. That should make it a lot easier to figure these out. 'Cause, I mean, we receive maps sometimes that, you know, people are like, why is this not secure? And I mean, it's taken me like 10 or 15 minutes before to figure out the answer.
Right. Yeah. It was. I mean, we had a lot of different ideas on how to approach that problem, but it's kind of simple, but it works, and it's.
None of my ideas worked, by the way.
Well, they're good ideas.
Just buttering me up.
We've got one of these other overlays that we added to, kind of on the note of troubleshooting, is the passenger AI decisions. It's kind of a temporary thing right now, but is this even going to be in default?
Yeah, I think we should leave it in.
Yeah, I mean, it's good.
I haven't even heard much feedback on it aside from people helping us debug stuff. I think, yeah. I also like seeing screenshots that why aren't my people using this? And we get the screenshot and we can tell right away without spending 15 minutes having to pull up the map and enable it and everything.
Right. Yep. So yeah, you can see them. It'll update in real time, and then you can kind of check why are they choosing a specific object over everything else. So
yeah, so you know, some of that, it is kind of a debug tool. We polish it up a little bit, but this is telling you like really what the passenger is considering. So everything you see in blue, the passenger is giving some thought to, and if you hover over it, you'll see, you know, exactly how much thought, what each of the heuristics is for that object. And I think we're maybe seeing a little bit more here than you may see in the build, just because of the development build. But you know, this should give you a pretty good idea of why people are choosing what. We know that this stuff needs balance still. Rob and I only play the game, you know, we play the game probably 12 hours a day, but we generally don't play the same map all day. We're pretty much always opening, you know, saves that you guys sent in, or we're working on like adding one specific thing. So some of this balance stuff, we like purely rely on your feedback to get right. You know, we test all this stuff, run it through our test maps, but we're just not going to see everything. We're generally trying to move fairly quick.
There's just an infinite number of test cases, and we can't cover it all. So it's something that we just need more feedback, basically. So
yeah, I mean, that it's very true too. Is like we've had stuff that it looks perfect on our testing, and then you guys get it and you're like, they won't walk far enough, or they walk too far. And it just comes down to layout. Like, do they want to sit down and there are 0 benches where they are? They're not going to walk miles to do that, but they're willing to walk fairly far. So, you know, that's just one little example, but you can imagine how many. I mean, it really has infinite possibilities. So yeah, try not to get frustrated with this though. We're not trying to make it unbalanced or frustrating. We're frustrated too when stuff like that happens. You know, somebody mentioned the other day that our rivals are wandering around too much. Maybe it may be that, you know, it may be layout. It may be that they have to walk too far to get out of there, and so they're willing to eat on their way out. It's hard to say, but just keep giving us feedback. We really are listening and making tweaks. It's just, yeah, it's not a Boolean 1 or 0, correct or not. It just takes a little bit of finesse. All right, well, thank you everyone for your support. Really do hope you enjoyed everything we got out to you this year. We got a lot more coming still. I mean, hopefully you could tell we're really excited about the game. I mean, just comparing it to what it was in March, it's like, oh my goodness. Yeah, thank you very much. Hope everybody has a very, very happy holiday. Enjoy your time with your family. Hope you get some SimAirport in. And yeah, we'll talk to you on the forums, and we'll see you in the new year.
Happy holidays.
Thanks, guys.